Hello, New World adventurers. What would you think if I told you that the developers of New World have included secret languages, codes, artifacts, and a once taboo historical context to New World that goes well beyond anything ever done in gaming? They have been dropping clues and hints in their promotional videos, their dev interviews, and other information releases that have shown that they are digging deep into a historical content in the game that will create stories within stories of this amazing new game. If you are a history buff like me, stick around because this presentation is going to talk about New World and how the developers of this game have put in all kinds of hints and clues for us that talk about these ancient cultures traveling around the world, and in this case, finding Aeternum. This is the first episode of Aeternum Awaits, and we are going to blow your mind with some evidence about what the devs have planned for the future of this game. Stick around. New World has opened the pages to a once taboo subject in history regarding ancient cultures who traveled the world and reached North and South America well before Columbus did in 1492. Now I know this is true because I've been teaching history for over 32 years. In fact, I have a bachelor's degree and master's degree and the equivalent of a doctorate in history and education. And what we have discovered, there were many cultures that came to the Americas right where the New World game is centered around, well before Christopher Columbus did. Some of the cultures that we've discovered, archaeological, cultural, linguistic, and even DNA evidence for arriving to the Americas include groups such as the Vikings, Polynesians, Japanese, Irish, the Knights Templar, which was a multicultural group. They had people from all over the world in the order of the Knights Templar, and the Chinese. And by the way, the Chinese may have not only crossed the Pacific Ocean to reach the Americas, but they may have also crossed the Atlantic Ocean to reach both North and South America. So how does all this relate to New World and Aeternum? Well, we know from what the devs have released about the lore of the game that Aeternum is an island located somewhere in the Atlantic near the Bermuda Triangle. And so all of this kind of plays into the whole mystery of the Bermuda Triangle theme. And all of these cultures that we're starting to see them implement into the game all plays into this story and this new history that's being taught of other cultures reaching the Americas before Columbus. Now, as mentioned earlier, the development and promotion of New World is showing signs of buying into these historical voyages in the game's population of inhabitants that came to the island and then fell to corruption. In the game promotion, we see Roman soldiers, Spanish conquistadors, pirates, Chinese warriors and their empress, and various other settlers from unknown regions that tried to settle on the island. The game has also teased us that the Vikings have also reached Aeternum. How did the game do that? Well, in both pictures that were released early on when they started promoting the game, and in game when you first arrive to Aeternum, if you look carefully, you will find very clear, obvious Viking ships crashed on the shoreline. The game has done this in a number of other ways too. Occasionally you will see weapons that are unique and specific to certain cultures in the game. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up is if you look at the promotion of the game where the whole What is Aeternum promotion, when the Spanish conquistadors are looking for the power source and they see that red ruby looking stone and they go up to it, and as he's getting ready to grab it, they are attacked by Roman soldiers who have fallen to corruption. An interesting thing about the game that I think we're going to see more of is that while there are some bosses that are Roman soldiers or Spanish conquistadors, we really haven't seen large settlements of these groups yet. That's got to change because we already know they're in the story. And why are they including things like Viking ships on the shore if they have no intention of ever adding a Viking settlement, just like they did Ebenscale Reach with the Chinese? So what I'm saying is, if you look carefully at how they're promoting the game in terms of populations of these fallen to corruption, you can see that they are starting to one by one focus on these different groups, and they're starting to implement armor that replicates what some of these cultures do too. For example, the Japanese haven't been shown in the game, but have you looked at some of the new gear that's come in and the way it looks? Very samurai appearance that could tie directly to the Japanese. And how about the Knights Templar? I mentioned them earlier. Same thing. Many of these new, not costumes, but armor types are very Knights Templar in appearance as well as other cultures. So what am I saying? I'm not saying that the game makers are going to include every single culture that is rumored to have come to the Americas in the game. But I am saying that there's definitely, if you look, some clues about who they may be adding next. And this gets to the root of content, because all the game's detractors are talking about how little content there is. While I'm thinking, as I'm seeing these clues drop, it's very obvious where they're going with this. They're going to be including some of these ancient civilizations that traveled to the New World and found Aeternum. And when you look at some of these costumes that they're coming up, or armor sets, in either case, they look like some of these cultures that have come in the past. And how about the look of this boss? Could that outfit not be Egyptian or Phoenician? Definitely has that type of a look about it. So it's my feeling that the reason the devs are dropping these clues and involving some of these cultures in the game is, I think that that's where they plan to take it. So don't be surprised if you don't see Viking settlements come into the game, much like Ebenscale Reach with the Chinese, and perhaps even Roman and Spanish conquistador types of settlements. Not just bosses, but actual settlements, much like what we see around the game with the pirates and the Chinese right now. Now, it could be that what will unlock these new cultures into the game, if they don't just insert them into the game the same way they did Ebenscale Reach, but maybe make them deeper content, is related to what I wanted to talk about next, and that's the game has hidden languages and clues and artifacts tied into what's already in the game. And there have been some interviews where the devs have talked about this. So in an interview, they were asked the question, I noticed during some combat scenarios, certain skills have an audio cue and even runes connected to them. Are these significant in the wider lore? They're talking about the game's lore that they've been making videos on and emphasizing in their promotions. And Robert Chesney replies, our audio team is world class, and they've been developing some really awesome strategies for integrating with the lore for some time now. In fact, as you seem to have noticed, some of the enemy families have entire languages that they've developed, which the players will hear in audio cues and read in lore notes. These languages are, of course, inhuman, but suffice to say, if someone devoted enough time into studying them, they very well might decrypt them and expose some of these groups' secret histories and future plans. Adventurers, that ties right into game content and a deeper dive into each of these cultures that have fallen to the corruption at Aeternum. I look forward to sharing more with you as we learn more about the future content of the game. I think it's just very exciting that they've added this secret language of the corrupt and they tie it into clues and different artifacts that can be found in the game. Perhaps it will lead to bigger and better expeditions into dungeons. Perhaps it will lead into new areas of the map that you can only access if you've solved these puzzles. It could be a huge part of the game, the highest level in terms of extreme content. I think it's going to be very exciting to see where they take this, how it goes, and we will see if my prediction is true in terms of these additional cultures being added into the game, such as the Vikings. If they do end up getting settlements, perhaps somehow these ancient languages will be tied into that. There's just no end to the potential that they have with where the game is going. Well, I hope you enjoyed this first edition of Aeternum Awaits, and we look forward to sharing more with you. Be sure to share your thoughts if you have ideas or if you've seen things in game that match up with what we've been talking about. I would love to hear from you. Normally, Aeternum Awaits is featuring my character, Orion Fall, and I will be broadcasting throughout the grind, whether it's crafting, PvPing, PvEing, whatever the game brings. I'm going to literally stream every day that I play the game. And until then, the game launches. Stay safe, explorers, in this new world.